Welcome to the AutomoBoerst YouTube channel. I'm Paul, and this right next to me is a 2005 Chevy Equinox. I bought it with a blown head gasket, a bad EGR valve, some faded, moisture-filled headlights, but it only had 84,000 miles. Now, I only agreed to pay the $1,000 for the age and because of the head gasket, because of how clean the interior was. I didn't have to do any work on the interior, so we're going to go over all the price for the car, everything I put into it, what needed to be fixed completely, what I spent on everything, and at the end, I'll show you how much I made, and I'll break it down per hour for you guys. So make sure you watch till the end of this video. In the meantime, make sure to like and subscribe, and let's get moving. After stopping to pick up a car dolly, we made our way to the location. As we pull up to get the Equinox, we already know that because of the blown head gasket, we're not going to be able to start it, so we can't use the power of the engine to get it up onto the dolly. But we notice that it is on a small hill, and we hope that we can pop it in neutral, let it roll, and let the momentum and weight of the Equinox do all of the work for us, and then all we'll need to do is strap it in and take it home. Of course, we couldn't get that lucky. Because of the tires being low on air from sitting for a few weeks, as soon as they hit the dolly ramp, the Equinox stopped dead in its tracks. At 3,600 pounds and semi-flat tires, pushing it is not going to be an easy job. So we did it the hard way, pure muscle, and after some time pushing it back and forth and back and forth and forth even more, we got it on there and we were on our way home. Once we got it home, we wasted absolutely no time. We hooked up the camera to our phone and started inspecting the cylinders. Because if we saw damage from the valves hitting the heads or any other type of cylinder damage, going any further than this would just be pointless and we would need a new engine. And after examining all 6 cylinders, we felt confident enough to proceed and start taking it the rest of the way apart. Starting with the fuel rail, it's in the way of the lower intake, so it needs to come out. Once that was disconnected, we went to disconnect the coolant hose to the radiator, and not surprisingly, nothing came out. Because of the blown head gasket, all of that coolant is probably just flowing straight through and filling up the oil pan. So, we carried on. We took the lower intake off, and here we could get a look at the lifters and even see the cam from here. All of it looked to be in perfect condition. This car must have started running roughly as soon as it blew the head gasket and was immediately turned off. The next day, I got to work. I pulled the exhaust bolts off of the block, and then I pulled the exhaust away and pulled out the blocks. First, I started with the driver's side, which is technically the right side on this one. Then the rear, which is technically the left side or the passenger side. Once both were disconnected, along with the lower intake, I used a weak wire brush, as you can see here, to start going over it and removing any residue from the gaskets, any RTV from the factory, and the trick is to barely hold it against the metal. You do not want to score this metal, you do not want to put any scratches in it, just enough to get any residue or any gunk or anything like that off. Alright, and we're here about 2 days later, and I had to order some parts, as you can see here. We needed a new belt, because the belt that we had did snap. We needed a new heater hose inlet pipe, because this one was slightly cracked. We realized that high RPMs, coolant would shoot out of it. And an EGR valve. The one we had in there also was cracked and would leak exhaust. Now, there is a slight misfire with the car, and going to investigate that in a little bit. It's either going to be the fuel injectors because of the coolant that got into the head and got into the injectors, or the coolant that flowed down the exhaust pipes and then ended up in the catalytic converter. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to spray some uh, stuff on the exhaust to hopefully disconnect the catalytic converter. See if we get a rough idle when it's disconnected, and if we do, we're gonna have to clean the catalytic converter or maybe replace it. Hopefully not. Maybe just put a pipe in the way because that's expensive. But we will do that, and then we will also, if that doesn't work, we'll check the fuel injectors. We might need to take the top of the engine back off and get back in there. But let's take a look and see what happens. So we have successfully broken and unsuccessfully extracted a bolt. So we have been working on this for the last 15 minutes, and as you can see, we are no closer to getting it finished. All we need to do is get the bolts out so we can install the new EGR pipe. It came with bolts, and we're stuck. How long do you guys think it's going to take to do this? How long do you think we're going to be stuck on this? Leave a comment down below and let me know what you think. Alright, as you can tell by the outfit change, it is the next day, and we have unsuccessfully removed the bolts from the exhaust manifold for the EGR. So what we're going to do is we're going to take it off, we're going to try to get it on a drill press, and we're going to try to drill out the bolts and then tap it, and then hopefully we can put new bolts in. If not, we're going to go to the junkyard, we're going to pull off the exhaust manifold for the front, or it's really called the driver's side, on this one, and we are going to then slap the new one on, put the new EGR valve on, and we're done. In front of me here is an exhaust manifold from an '05 Chevy Equinox. If you notice, the EGR pipe is already gone, and I'm thinking to myself, awesome, I'm not going to break the bolts on this one. But if you notice here, I have an EGR valve from an '06 Equinox, and I'll explain why that matters here in a little bit. And let me tell you, everything I learned, everything I had to learn, I was not expecting. And I'm going to need a bunch of caffeine for this. So, let's get some Dunkin'. Alright, here for the rust spots, we got one right here, and it is not bad at all. It is definitely going to be able to come out with some sanding, and we can go over it with some primer and etch paint, and get in there and just spray over it. And then we have one more on the back, about the same size. We're going to get in there, we're going to sand it down now. Just imagine this scene for an hour and 30 minutes, and that's what happened in this part. Alright, so I don't know too much about what I'm doing, so I'm going to say this is good. I got a pretty good amount here. Don't know if you can see it, but it's pretty good down to the metal. I'm going to head to AutoZone, get some rust inhibitors, primer combo spray, get some universal white, and then I think I have some clear coat here because I only have some small spots to do, so the clear coat I have should be sufficient. And if not, I can sand it back down and redo it until it looks good. I hit the two spots I showed you, one little spot next to it, and then there was one over here onto the side of the car on the door. Nothing crazy. So we'll go ahead, let's go to AutoZone, get those parts, and get that stuff, and we'll come back and get going. Oh, and we gotta clean it first. I have some isopropyl alcohol I'll wipe down the area with first before I do any kind of primer or painting. Make it look nice and neat, clean it up, prep it for everything. We don't want to lay paint over, dust. So I started with some rust inhibiting primer to make sure that the rust doesn't come back. I did both the back and the side of the car that I had sanded down. And really, I got 2 coats on there to really make sure it was ready and make sure there was no chance of that rust coming back. After that, I came in with some 600 grit sandpaper on the side because I feel like I didn't do a good enough job getting the rust out of there. So I sanded it down, started over, and really got in there, reapplied the primer. After that, I came in with some universal white spray paint, and I did a couple coats on the side and the back. I think I did about 3 coats, and it came out really nice. Again, this is universal white. It's not exact, and it doesn't look 100% perfect in direct sunlight, but for the most part, you cannot tell. And to be fair though, here I probably should have done a little bit of body filler, but again, this is my first time doing this. I had no idea what I was doing, but I feel like for my first time, The back came out very well. I put some clear coat on it. I did forget to record that. I did some clear coat on the side. On this side, I actually had to sand it all the way back down to bare metal and start over. But it came out great. Now it was time to pull out the old exhaust manifold and get the new one installed. It actually wasn't as bad as I thought it would be, but it did take quite a bit of time and maneuvering. But once I had it out, it was time to get the new EGR pipe, and that was it. Or so I thought. Once I went to bolt the EGR pipe to the EGR valve, I noticed it didn't reach. And the reason is something I never would have guessed, and it involves the EGR valve I showed you earlier at the junkyard. In 2007, Chevy did a technical service bulletin on the 05 to 06 Equinox regarding the EGR valve. See, the original Delphi units would fail and need replaced with the Siemens. Both had different locations for the EGR pipe to connect to, and both had different wiring, requiring a new valve, some pigtail wiring, and a new EGR pipe, which I already ordered. Or what you could do is go to the junkyard and get the EGR pipe, which was missing from the one that we grabbed the exhaust manifold from, which makes sense now. So what I did was pull the Siemens unit off of the later 06 Equinox so that I could use that instead. So I wired the new valve and the connector into the main harness, which wasn't very hard, and here's a horrible drawing of how it needed to be done and wired up to work with the new one. So I stripped the wires, soldered them together, and used some shrink wrap once it was done to seal them tight, and it worked just fine, except for needing the dealer to reprogram the PCM to turn off the check engine light. Even though it worked perfectly, it still would throw the check engine light because of the voltage reference on one of the wires. I called every shop I could nearby and nobody could do it, so I consigned myself to having to pay the dealer $195 total to have it done for me. And that was after they argued with me about it and said that I didn't know what exactly was needed. But they got it done, it works, and the check engine light no longer comes on.
Fade away as you fade away as you fade away as you fade away.
The car itself was $1,000. The EGR valve, pipe, and wiring was $28. The exhaust manifold was $40. The serpentine belt was another $40. The head gasket kit was $100. Coolant, $38. Oil, oil filter, and air filter, $40. Fuel system treatment, $10. The car dolly rental, $60. The registration and the title was $89, and the HID bulbs for the headlights were $80, bringing us to a grand total of $1,500. $525. And that's it for the video, guys. That is a profit of $2,475. Now, I did have to split that with my father-in-law, as he's the one that put the initial $1,000 to buy the Equinox in the first place, but we still made a good cut for ourselves. I made $1,000 out of this. He made $1,000 out of this. We paid ourselves back a little bit of that extra money there. It was a win-win. And if you like this video, make sure to like and subscribe. I have another video coming soon with a 2002 Dodge Ram 1500 4x4 that I picked up for even less than this, and you won't believe how it ran. So make sure to subscribe to the channel. Let me know what you thought about this video. Have you ever worked on an Equinox like this? Have you ever had to do the EGR valve replacement and had to get it reprogrammed by the dealer? Or did you get a new PCM from a junkyard one that was already programmed? Let me know down below, and I hope to see you guys next time. See ya!